Kathryn.
Hi,
Uh,
Wendy.
Today I'm talking to Kathryn MacKinnon, one of the most fascinating people I've met, who has a website out there called From Ordinary to Legendary. Kathryn intentionally left her job a couple of years ago to start living her life in a different way. You've done several Ironman competitions. You are a certified nutritional coach. You're also a certified code model coach. In some respects, I feel like we're kind of on an exchange. You grew up in the Montreal area and moved to Nova Scotia, and I did the exact opposite. We actually met in Nova Scotia, I think probably about 6 years ago or so. And we've kind of crossed paths a couple of times. So thanks for taking the time to chat with me today, first of all. And I guess my first question to you is, what would you like us to know about you?
Oh, okay. Ah, I am curiosity unapologetic. To start, you talked about Ironman. So I've started 20 Ironman triathlons. I've finished 19. I've only ever not finished one triathlon in my career of 20 something years of doing triathlons. And it was at the Ironman World Championships in Hawaii in 2016. And I remember really struggling with that because throughout my Ironman career, my friends, when they were introducing me, would say, "This is Kathryn. She's an Ironman," or "She does Ironman triathlon." And I always remember being very uncomfortable with that. And because I knew that that isn't who I am. It's one of the things I did.
Okay.
And even knowing that after that DNF, what flooded through me was, well, who am I if I am not Ironman triathlete? And so it was a beautiful reminder of I am curiosity unapologetic. I am someone who loves to talk. I'm someone who loves to listen. I love nothing more than talking to people and hearing their stories and getting to know who they are and being in conversation with them. And that's the curiosity. And I remember as a kid, I don't specifically remember it as a set memory, but I remember always being like, it wasn't the done thing to ask questions. I was being nosy. So that's been a real struggle to let go of, and to know that maybe it's not nosy, maybe I'm just curious, and there's an innocence to that, right? It's not nosy, give me the goods. It's like, wow, I'm really curious about you because I really want to get to know you.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
That's really cool. And that's a quality that's something that I've had to cultivate in my life. Curiosity didn't not come naturally. Probably because I was, no, don't be asking those kinds of questions,
Yes,
so I
exactly.
learned very early not to ask questions and not to get curious. And I've realized only recently in my life that, because I tended to be not, I wouldn't say a loner, but certainly independent in doing things solo. And I've realized the magic of conversations over the last couple of years, and how much we learn about not only other people, but about ourselves when we engage in conversations and don't shy away from the difficult topics.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And the uncomfortable conversations. That's a whole
Yeah.
nother topic. But yeah, diving into the deep and uncomfortable conversations can
Yeah.
be very freeing, but it takes a lot of courage.
Yes.
A lot of
Yes, it does. And that's something I didn't realize for a long time either. Courage is an important part of it.
Yeah.
Recently I started a new program that I call Magic, and you participated in my pilot. Thank you very much again. Your presence was absolutely magic. And for a couple of people that have listened already, Magic is an acronym for me, that basically stands for manifesting authentic green dot moments with intentional choice. And I believe that we can be really the masters of our own lives. And it so much depends upon being present in the moment and making choices, informed choices, right? Ones that are meaningful to us. green dot moments is a term that really means something that we didn't know already. It's some new information or an aha moment that comes to us, a new realization. Do you have any examples of green dot moments in your life, Kathryn?
I was listening to the two other conversations that you've had with Sheila Winter Wallace and with Lisa J. Weiss. And like them, I think I've had so many that it's really hard to kind of come up with one. But one did come to me this morning in anticipation that you might ask me that question. And I remember Naomi Irons, who is gone through all the programs and is a very, very dear friend of mine. And in the early days, it was actually because of Naomi and Holly Irons that I stepped into the Well Systems programs, because I looked at them and I said, I want some of what they have. Just what they were discovering, right? It was it was completely foreign to me, a completely different language. And it was magical. There's the word, magic.
There it is, yeah.
And so I had lots and lots of conversations in those early days with Naomi, and I very often reached out to her, and she guided me through some very crucial moments in my life. And I will never forget one day, I think it was right before she was moving to Hawaii, and I was visiting with her. And the moment still brings tears to my eyes. It was very special. And we were standing there hugging. And I said to her how much I was going to miss her. And that I knew that we were always going to be connected. That even though we wouldn't be physically in the same general vicinity, because she used to just live up the road from me, we would always be connected. And that is true of all of us, you know, we're all connected. And in that moment, I had always looked to her. And by that time, I had met and been engaged in a program with Louise Lebrun, founder of the Well Systems body of knowledge. And I'd always looked to them as being the expert, that I always needed to go to them for help or guidance. And in that moment with Naomi, it was this big aha moment of, no, you are not the expert in my life. I am the expert in my life. And from that moment on, it's not to say I don't enjoy conversations. I love conversations, and I love them because it brings to light what's coming up inside me, about me, that I can learn from and discover and evolve from, because I am the expert in my life.
That's an amazing description. And I think that most people don't do that, or we learn that later on, that we kind of have to have we have choice, we have the ability to control what goes on in our lives. Maybe not what happens to us, but certainly how we respond
and how we react. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think is behind the fact that so many of us look outside of ourselves for validation and for guidance?
My belief about it is that's what we're taught from a very, very early on. You know, just before this conversation, I hadn't had time yet to listen to your conversation with Lisa J. Weiss, and in it, she talked about the thought's gone. Sorry.
That's okay.
You know, we're taught from a very early age to look outside of ourselves. Oh, that's it. She was giving the example of, you know, when we're kids, our parents say to us, well, you can't be hungry, you just ate. Or it's cold outside, you're gonna, you know, you got to put on a coat, you're gonna get cold. Yeah. And I have an example of my nephew who, as a kid, you know, when it was whatever 5 degrees out, he'd be outside in shorts because he wasn't cold, right? And yet we as parents would tend to say, oh my gosh, it's 5 degrees outside, therefore it must be cold, and you must be cold, therefore you should be wearing trousers.
Yeah.
And so from a very early age, we're taught not to trust ourselves, or we're not allowed to trust ourselves and to follow our internal cues, because we're taught that we are not the expert, that our parents are the expert, our teachers are the expert, clergy people are the expert, our babysitters are the expert. They are the elders and the older people in our lives, and they are the authority figures, so we have to listen to them. And for sure, we want to trust our parents and these people, these authority figures in our lives, to keep us safe. Because as a 2-year-old, I might not know that if I cross that road without looking, I'm going to possibly get hit by a car, right? So we need to be kept safe. And I believe there's space there to be kept safe and to allow our true authentic selves, our capital S self, to grow and to glow and to show up and to be present.
I love that, to grow and to glow. That sounds pretty powerful. And it's, I think a lot of times when we're young, because we have all those rules that are put in place to keep us safe. And we do, as humans, we do so much through habituation, right? Like as Joe Dispenza says, we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts every day, and 90% of them are the same as the ones that we did the day before. So we get into this life of habituation. And we forget when we turn 20, 30, 40 that we're not 6 anymore. Right. We have the power within us and the ability to choose to make different choices because we're in a different situation. And we simply don't. We repeat patterns and habits.
And to add to what you just said, we have the ability to change our beliefs and values and attitudes. So on top of, we have the ability to make a different choice. Typically, we're choosing based on our beliefs, values, and attitudes.
Yes.
Which are conditioned beliefs, values, and attitudes from our however many years that we've been living with people telling us what to do or how to think or what to feel. So it's also about changing our beliefs, values, and attitudes, because now we're adults. We know how to keep ourselves safe, and we get to choose differently if we want to. If our life is not working for us, I remember in the nutritional coaching program that I did, we were taught to ask the question, and how's that working for you? And it's a great question. So if I'm continually bumping up against something, okay, well, I can ask myself, and how's that working for me? And am I willing and able to make a different choice based on a different set of beliefs, values, and attitudes of my own making or my own doing?
It's amazing to me. And I started my Well Systems journey in 2017. And then I also became an ICF certified coach. So I'm really comfortable asking questions, but I'm almost daily astounded when I come up with some new realization that was a total blind spot for me that I never saw before, because those patterns and habits are so deeply ingrained. And it's like, huh? How did I not notice that before? But again, if we're not taught to question, and we get really good, like as a coach, I got really good at asking questions of other people, but not so good about myself. Or I would ask myself questions, but more from kind of an academic pursuit, as opposed to becoming the living library and actually trying it, and not just phoning it in, but trying it. And when I try it, and when something happens, well, I'm telling you, there's days when there's a lot of tears and a lot of ugly crying kind of thing, because all of a sudden there's this release of some rule that I had for myself that I know no longer serves me, and it's now being challenged. I don't think it's gone, because I don't think we're ever one and done. I remember thinking
no, most definitely not. It's a continually evolving journey.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, journey's a great word actually, because sometimes we have to go around the block a couple of times to really get something.
And and also one of my big learnings is that it's not linear. I, like Lisa, I'm very intellectual. Like, I'm so much in my intellect. My intellect is so strong, and I'm organized, and math always made sense to me. So when things are not linear, oh, that's a real pattern interrupt for me. So
Yeah.
for me, it's been a lot about allowing, this, not this, or
Yeah.
this. It might be this and it might be this, and then go
Yeah.
back up.
Oh, and sometimes it's like, oh, no, wrong path. Let's go
Yeah,
back and go this way.
yeah, that's right.
Like, wrong journey, wrong map. Let's start again.
I noticed you said the word ugly crying.
Hmm.
Can I just call you out on that? Because
Absolutely.
my personal feelings about that term,
Uh-huh.
I hate it.
Is
I
that right?
hate it. Well, like, you know, as again, I keep coming back to what Lisa brought up in our conversation with you, because I just listened to it before coming on to this
Uh-huh.
call with you. Words have vibrations
Yes.
in our body, whether we know it or
Mhm.
not, whether we're conscious of it or not.
Yeah.
So why do we equate crying with ugly?
Yeah.
Crying, tears are just water in flow in our
Yes.
bodies. It is our bodies processing information. If we're triggered, just like I was triggered in relaying that memory to you about a hug with Naomi, and
Yeah.
those were happy, sad tears. And
Yeah.
I don't stop myself from shedding those tears because it's my body just reacting to that memory, being
Yeah.
triggered by that memory. And so, can we, every single one of us, just allow those tears to flow
Yeah.
without labeling them as anything? Happy tears, sad tears, ugly
Yeah.
crying.
It's just
And the
water.
fact that we're equating ugly, I mean, the
Mhm.
word ugly, we live in this society that women all have to be beautiful and pretty and
Mhm.
gorgeous. And oh, and then what's the opposite of that? Ugly.
Yeah.
We are all unique individuals with our own superpowers. As you mentioned, we each have our own magic.
Mhm.
So there's no space for ugly,
Yeah.
I don't think, and certainly not tying it with tears.
That's actually a really good point, because one of the things that Lisa talks about in her book also is reframing things. And there's a chart at the back of the book to say this: if this is the word you use, then use this other one. The one that stands out for me is high maintenance, because I tend to use that term a lot too. And when I talk about ugly crying, what I'm talking about is really an intensity. Not that it's ugly or not pretty, but that there's
Mhm.
an intensity there. And for me, that's an important distinction, because when there's that kind of intensity, that's a lot of energy moving. That's a real green dot moment for me when something like that happens. And I don't look at tears as being a bad thing. I look at tears as being a release.
Absolutely.
And like I said, it's just water. And like you said, energy and information. And I think it's important that we get comfortable doing that. Like, for years, I didn't cry. Did not cry. I remember when I was at my dad's bedside when he passed away, there was no tears. Like, they just would not come, because I could not release at that point in my life what needed to be released. I couldn't, I wasn't in touch with the feelings that were there. Like,
Mm.
it came within a couple of days, but when that event happened, like, I was like numb. I could not respond. And I think one of the big things that I've learned through well systems and through coaching and just my life and the way I've lived it in the last 5, 6 years is that we have to meet those emotions where they are, and we have to embrace them and
Yep.
let them move through us. Because if we don't, we never learn.
That's right.
We can't learn if we don't let it manifest.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we always talk about our reaction within a well systems contact. We talk about my reaction is all about me.
Mhm.
So here's a perfect example of words and vibration and meaning and reaction. So
Yeah.
for me, I react deeply when I hear anyone use the term ugly crying.
Yeah,
because that for me is what I've just described, like
absolutely.
why I don't like it. And so it's fascinating, right? That for you, the term ugly crying means something very different. For you, it
Yeah.
means intensity of tears, of
Mhm.
water in flow. So you're okay with using it. And
Yeah.
thank you for that explanation, because that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know
But
what
you
I mean?
bring, yeah, but you
But
bring up
the
a
thing
great point.
is the thing is that most people who are using the term ugly crying are not using it in the same context that you are.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll be mindful in the future because what I'm describing is not ugly, so it's not the right word,
Exactly,
right?
right.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's
it's not the right
intense.
word.
It's intensity.
It's an intensity, yeah,
Yes.
very intense. Like it, and it's it's so cathartic. And afterwards, if we let it happen, it really does feel pretty good. Like there's this release, and this weight lifts off your shoulder.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
number of times that I've had very intense periods of tears, of water and flow, very often around the loss of my mother.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I feel when my body has subsided and the tears the tears have stopped flowing. Yeah, I feel cleansed, if that's
Yeah.
cleansed, and excuse me, released, and and uh done, kind of like oh, like heavy, like oh, like it's hard to describe. It's again, we have all of these body sensations or physical sensations in our body
Mhm.
that we just don't have the language for, that we don't have the words for, because
Yeah.
words are so limiting.
Yes.
you know we
And
it,
I find our body has an intuition that our intellect doesn't connect with. And that's the intuition that I feel I had been taught to ignore,
right,
or that
right.
wasn't important, don't pay attention to that. And it's incredible, like when I'm about to do something and I get an impulse, I now listen to it. Like if I'm about to, pay for something and I'm thinking, oh, do I really want this? Like, am I doing this because I should do it or I have to do it? Because those are words that I really try not to use at all anymore, because those are usually somebody else's expectations of me. And sometimes that's
Yes,
fair enough. But if I'm going to do those things, it should be mindful, not just
yes,
because I'm expected to do it.
yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So what's your focus these days? What's important to you these days?
Hmm. In terms of creating magic in my life,
Mhm.
it's staying in the conversation. So again, as I was listening to your conversation with Lisa, and when I listened to your conversation with Sheila, and recently I was in conversation with Kathleen, who
Mhm.
and it's about staying in the conversation,
Yeah.
because when we're not, it's far too easy to go back to sleep. Like I think this might have been talked about in one of your other two conversations, but if it doesn't, it bears repeating, and if it hasn't been brought up, it bears being said. Once this different way of living that I learned through the Well Systems body of knowledge, you cannot not know it. You
Mhm.
cannot go back to sleep.
Yeah.
You can have a nap, but you're not going back to sleep.
Yeah.
You are awake, you have been awakened, you have now been made aware of the sensations in your body. And I keep saying we,
Mhm. Mhm.
anybody who has delved into the programs. I am awake to my body, to the sensations. I trust my body. I do my utmost to listen to my body every time. And I will wholly admit and come clean that that doesn't always happen.
Mhm.
Sometimes I don't want to listen to my body because I want to do something else.
Yeah.
Here's a perfect example. I, having done many triathlons in my life, I love running, swimming, cycling. And since January, I've had a sore knee.
Mhm.
And for the first couple of weeks, I just kind of ignored it. And then I thought, okay, now I need to do something about it, because a sore knee is twofold. You know, it's energy moving in my body, inviting me to come to an awareness of something
Mhm.
that I'm doing or saying or living that maybe needs to change. And it can be a sore knee.
Mhm.
So I have choices. I can look at it from an energetic perspective
Mhm.
and invite myself to look inside myself, to wonder and question what's going on. And I also have the option of looking to a medically trained person to help me with the actual physical construct of the knee.
Mhm.
So finally, after many months, I've reached out to a medical professional who is helping me with my knee on the physical aspect.
Mhm.
And I've realized in this moment, as I'm saying it out loud, that I haven't looked inside myself and asked myself the questions about energetically, what does this sore knee mean for me in my body? So thank
Mhm.
you for that,
Mhm.
because now I can go and do that. And I've caught myself looking to this medical professional as being the expert.
Uh-huh.
So the medical professional says, do this, do this, do this. So I do it. And when I do that, I notice my knee is more sore. And I'm thinking, and in conversation with Kathleen just recently, she kept reminding me to trust myself.
Mhm.
And so I realized, this is just like in the last 2 weeks and working with a medical professional, that I'm not trusting myself. I'm not listening to my body. So when he says, go out and try running, and I try running and it hurts to run,
Mhm.
I'm not listening to my body.
Mhm.
So what he's doing some acupuncture, and that really helped. So this morning, my knee felt great. I'm going to go and try a run.
Mhm.
Now today, it felt great to start, and then after a few hundred meters, it's like, nah. So instead of trying to push through it, I am going to trust myself, and I stopped. It's like, why am I choosing to run with pain? That makes no sense. It's
Mhm.
crazy. So I stopped.
Okay.
So it really is about looking inwards to myself for the answers, not looking outside of myself to another expert for the answers, because I
Mhm.
have all the answers I need inside myself if I'm willing to go and look.
Okay. And partner, you can partner with other people, but trust yourself at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And the knee, it's kind of, that's root chakra, right? All about safety and security.
Safety and security.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's right.
The energy flowing.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hmm. So I really want to thank you again for participating in my pilot a couple of weeks back. Your presence was so it really enriched the entire experience, I think, for everyone, because you have a knowledge of well systems and this way of looking at the world, kind of thing, that's not always obvious or intuitive, because again, we tend to go back to our intellects instead of trusting who we are. And your presence was really, really welcomed, and your contributions to those conversations were amazing. So I want to say thanks for that. And thanks for chatting with me today. I really appreciate it. Are there any? I'll put your contact information and your website in the notes for the video that as I put it up on YouTube. Any final messages or any last words you'd like to share with us?
Well, there is one thing that we didn't talk about that I had jotted down, because so if it's okay with you, I just
Mhm.
wanted to bring it up in closing, is that I'm aware of how often when I'm in conversation with someone
Mhm.
who may be a friend or a colleague who hasn't been involved in any of the well systems programs or knows nothing about the well systems body of knowledge,
Mhm.
how often when I'm giving them quote unquote advice,
Mhm.
um, and when I say advice in quotes, I mean because I'm offering them a different perspective of a different way of looking at things.
Mhm.
And how often, when I'm speaking to someone under the thought that I'm helping them, how often those words that I'm speaking to another are exactly what I need to hear for myself, for something I'm moving through in that moment.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. So, we talk about I am the creator of my world.
Mhm.
And I know that when my world is going well, I know how easy that is to own that I am the creator of my world.
Mhm.
It's not so easy when things don't seem to be going so well for
Mhm.
me that I'm the creator of the world.
Mhm.
And I know and trust that everything that is coming into my life is for me to learn from, to discover more of who I am.
Mhm.
And so I know that I'm bringing these people into my life to have conversations with, to give me that perfect opportunity that I think I'm talking to them for them, but oh, wow, I'm talking to me for myself. And every time I do that, it's another big like aha moment, like, oh, wow, yes, this is exactly what I need to hear for myself today.
Yeah, we're all aspects of each other's consciousness. And
Yes,
if we allow things to unfold, we can see those opportunities for growth and learning in every conversation.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a big aha moment listening to a Brené Brown video yesterday. She talks about boundaries, like, and how nothing is sustainable without boundaries. And I bring that up because the topic was really about compassion and self-compassion. And I realize that as I go through the world, I oftentimes, um, I'm not really good at saying no to people. So
Mm,
I challenge somebody on the weekend to not judge me, because that's how it felt in that conversation. And if testing those boundaries and actually putting a boundary in place so that I can trust myself and what I was feeling, as opposed to just acquiescing to whatever somebody else was giving me, was huge. And it was in listening to that video that I realized what I had done. I thought, wow, I set a boundary, and I don't usually do that. That's probably why it felt so uncomfortable.
yes, because you're making a different choice for yourself,
Yes,
right?
exactly, exactly. And
But
it caused some ruffled feathers, and probably will in the immediate future, until it kind of, the dance of that relationship becomes comfortable for both of us again.
yeah. Well, and it's important to remind yourself, if your intellect is trying to jump in and suggest that, oh, you shouldn't have said that, or you shouldn't have done that, because what's the other person going to think? What's the other person going to feel? Is to
Yeah,
remind yourself that your reaction is about you and their reaction is about them.
exactly.
And if they are not used to you setting boundaries, well, of course, they're not going to like it that you set a boundary,
Yeah.
right? And you need to honor yourself first and foremost.
Yes, because if I can't do that, then I can't be present for anybody else.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
That that
absolutely.
whole that whole other topic of conversation about being selfish and
Exactly.
redefining what the word selfish means in a well systems context.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Kathryn. This has been delightful.
Oh, it's been so much fun. Thank you
You're
for inviting me to join you. I know we could talk for hours and
I
hours and
know.
hours. We always do, because it's always so much fun.
It
So
really is.
thank you so much. It's been great.
You're welcome. Thank you.